confrontation between the Sierras and the Holdens in this race, Gary. We've seen these guys battling pretty hard throughout the series. Take a look at the way they line up and we'll see that Tony Longhurst has pole position with a time of 51.18, and alongside him old rival Brian Callaghan in the Holden Commodore, a classic Ford versus Holden battle. Position 3, row 2, Mark Gibbs, 52.82, and alongside Mark we have Colin Bond in the Caltex Sierra of 53.32, had some problems yesterday. Position 5, row 3, Kenny Matthews in the second of the Caltex cars, 53.34, and then another Amaroo expert, and that's the Trevor Ashby Steve Reed Holden Commodore, 54.64. Position 7, Lyndon Reithmuller in the Commodore. Position 8, the old BMW M3 being driven by Peter Dillman. Position 9, 52, John Cotter, BMW M3, 55.96. And position 10, Brian Callaghan Jr., 56.54 in the second of the Callaghan Holden Commodores.
That is one of the yellow Commodores blowing a lot of smoke, just pulling up on the starting line, and the officials running down through the pack. Had a drop or two of oil spilled here today at Amaroo Park. At the first opportunity to take a look at the tourers on this afternoon's AMSCAR Grand Final telecast from Amaroo. There's Tony Longhurst, Colin Bond in the second row. We spoke to both gentlemen a little earlier. Tony brimming with confidence here today, Colin with a few problems. The Caltex cars splendidly turned out.
10 seconds.
Watch Callaghan off the start. Off and racing, Callaghan gets the jump, does he, initially, and Longhurst picks up the second gear, but Callaghan heads up the hill, and this is almost a repeat of last time when we visited Amaroo Park and the Holden got away. There's one that's got away, but didn't get away too well, with smoke billowing from behind as they drop down into Dunlop Loop for the first time.
Well, great start from Brian Callaghan. Gee, he really got mobile. Tony Longhurst now, though, comes around through the right-hander at Sutton's, and they're side by side, but Longhurst gets through. Callaghan out wide, getting sideways. And the Tui's 1000 winner of 1988 goes on with the job.
Mark Gibbs up to third. And it looks like Ashby Reed Commodore, the one that's blowing all that smoke back behind the pack. Longhurst comes through the late corner, Callaghan glued to the back of him, and then Gibbs the next one through. Down for the completion.
Ooh, Callaghan just nailed the fence that time.
Little kiss of the guardrail there. Coming out of that corner, and as they head up the hill again, looking for Bond to make an impression, but it's really not all going that well today for Colin Bond so far.
No, I think a lot of V8 muscle to get past before he can mount any sort of assault on Tony Longhurst, and it looks pretty unlikely at this moment.
We take our Dulux Auto Colour race cam, of course, from Colin Bond's Caltex Sierra. He's sitting in behind Gibbs as they make the run downhill now. Callaghan one ahead of him, and Longhurst already sprinting as they exit that turn, and he runs on down towards the lake.
The Ashby Reed Dulux Commodore still blowing plenty of smoke, and I thought the last time through Trevor was actually shown a black flag. In fact, he's about to get it again as they come up onto the straight. So it's Longhurst leading. It's Bondy back in the pack slightly.
And then look for the Ashby Reed Commodore. It goes across the line. The black flag hung out yet again. And he goes through as Bond strikes trouble on the way up the hill.
Giving the track a liberal coating of oil.
Got underneath the... Bond's got problems there as he's just a bit off the pace. And there's the smoke billowing out of the Ashby Reed Commodore as we take our picks from Dulux Auto Colour Race Cam out of Dunlop Loop, and they move down the back straight.
Yeah, that's what you call having smoke blown in your face, isn't it? Back for the leaders now. Tony Longhurst still being pursued relentlessly by Brian Callaghan. Mark Gibbs in behind them. Those three now with a fair gap on the rest of the field.
Here's Callaghan just storming down under brakes. And I don't know whether or not he caught Tony Longhurst unaware. But Gibbs moves up right behind Longhurst as well. So Callaghan goes back into the lead in the Commodore. Brings some of the Holden supporters to their feet as they go across the strike. And Callaghan leading Tony Longhurst up the hill.
Gibbs Commodore doesn't seem to have as good a grip on the road as Callaghan's car, does it?
Brian does most of his development here at Amaroo Park.
Notice that the Bob Forbes team welcomes GIO Insurance to their team for the first time this weekend, and they'll carry the backing of GIO for the Tui's 1000.
Colin Bond returns to the pits. He is really having just a wretched weekend. needs to make up about 16 points in one day to even level the AMSCAR series with Tony Longhurst, and it's all over very early in this race. Bit of time to get it repaired, if they can repair the problem, in time for the 20-lap final. Bit of pressure now on Brian Callahan as Tony Longhurst zeroes in behind him in the Benson and Hedges Sierra as they go across the line, and Longhurst sitting in the draft as they head up the hill.
Brian Callahan in third place in the series, and unless Colin Bond can get cranked up and running for the second heat especially, then Callahan's going to overtake him. Whether or not he could bridge the gap points-wise on Longhurst is another matter.
Tony out wide this time. May look towards the inside as they come down the back straight. If he can just squeeze the Sierra through there on the inside, you only get one little shot at it. This is the corner. Callahan gets back on the pedal again as they run downhill.
It was a great race, and Tony comes back on the inside once again. Mark Gibbs wants a piece of the action as well. Now Longhurst on the outside as they make the run down to the stop right-hander.
Coming off Dulux straight, heading up now to Toledo corner. Great scrap.
Gibbs.
Gibbs up now on the inside of Callahan. And Kenny Matthews getting in amongst them now in the Sierra. He's going to try and make a little dip up here on the inside, but the gate is closed as Gibbs goes through on the inside of Brian Callahan to the top of the hill.
Half race distance, side by side over the top.
I think Tony will be happy just to be sitting in front of this little scrap that's going on for second.
He'd be glad to have Callahan off his back.
Gibbs is a fairly enterprising lad.
And he's going to be joined, I understand, Mike, in the long distance races by Rowan Onslow, who's leading the Gold Star Championship.
The exit corner, let's have a look at the problem that was picked up here with one of the Holdens, I believe. 99 having a loop. That was Rick Scarf. Harmless little spin. Just out of the late corner, was able to pick it up and rejoin the field. Once again, they come across the line. Heading up Betchapave Hill yet again. Longhurst.
Hasn't been able to get away from them, Longhurst, and Kenny Matthews is the one that looks like he'd like to go quicker if he could get by the two big thumping Holdens between he and Longhurst.
He's going to have to be a little closer and do exactly what Longhurst did a couple of laps ago. Let's try and squeeze down the inside in this spot. They cover an awful lot of Road 2 Commodores. Oh, Callahan just a toucher. There goes Gibbsy. Now that really has opened the field up for Kenny Matthews, but a little apprehensive there. He just sat to see which way Callahan was coming back. And Callahan closes up yet again. Matthews this time dives down on the inside. It's time to get on with it.
Kenny went in there pretty quick, and I didn't think he was going to pull up in time, and he got round okay. And he's been improving all the time in this car throughout the year, and he's just concentrating solely on his motor racing and doing a good job.
He's one of the veterans of the sport, been around for quite a while, Kenny Matthews. Sits in behind Brian Callahan as they make the run down to Sutton's corner. Now the downhill sprint to Honda. Callahan locked up a break last time down through here. Not this time. Mark Gibbs was looking good there for a while. Second. He's back now to fourth. But Longhurst hasn't sprinted away. Fairly close order as they come up to Toledo corner. We'll put the nose down there just to see if he'd have a little nibble, but that was not the place to be doing it.
I'll tell you what, Brian doesn't give in too easily either. He's well experienced. 53, Peter Dillman.
Stopped on the side of the racetrack. The BMW. Now, he's a pretty aggressive campaigner, Brian. Been around the traps for many years. Started off Speedway. Loved the Tourers. Got involved there. Always fancied a V8. I could never see Brian going the turbo route. Coming down to the late corner, Tony Longhurst just there from Callahan. Kenny Matthews sits there in third. Mark Gibbs in fourth spot.
Last lap board is going out, so if the order's going to change, it's going to have to happen pretty quickly.
I don't think it will from here. Sierra just screams up Bitchpave Hill. Drops down now into Dunlop Loop. Callaghan, to his credit, just sits right on the bumper there, and Kenny Matthews. No aggressive stuff from Ken. He's going to finish third here. Keep his points tally alive with the 20 lapper coming up shortly. We hope that Colin Bond can get the second of the Caltex cars back on the racetrack for the final this afternoon. Out of Honda, a run down through Dulac Straight now. And it looks like this race will just about lock her up for Tony Longhurst. No Colin Bond out there. That really does take the pressure off. And as they sprint up to Toledo for the final time, it'll be Tony Longhurst in Frank Gardner's magnificently prepared Benson and Hedges Sierra who will lead them across the line. And he takes victory from Callaghan. Third going to Kenny Matthews and fourth to Mark Gibbs. And they really did open up a hell of a lead over the rest of the field. Lyndon Reithmuller being the fourth place driver. Well, there's our race winner of heat number 1 of the AMSCAR as we check them out for you on our Caltex race score. The Benson and Hedges Sierra of Tony Longhurst, the winner of heat 1. Second going to Brian Callaghan in the Commodore, and third spot to Kenny Matthews in the Caltex Sierra.